In a shocking development that signals a dramatic shift in the ongoing conflict, elite military units are being urgently redeployed to the Sumy region. This isn't just another tactical adjustment, it's a desperate gambit that exposes deep vulnerabilities in the northern defense line. The deployment includes the Naman Celebijihan battalion, classified as a terrorist organization by Russian authorities, the 48th Assault Battalion, the 87th Territorial Defense Battalion, and special forces from the 8th Regiment. This combination of elite forces and territorial units indicates they're responding to a rapidly deteriorating situation. When mixing elite special forces with hastily trained territorial defense units, you're not executing a strategy. You're desperately plugging holes in a crumbling defense. The Russian forces are methodically advancing in the Sumy direction, forcing a fundamental restructuring of the opposing military. Their general staff has officially acknowledged a new North Slobozhansky front, speaking volumes about the situation's severity. We're witnessing the emergence of another major front that must be defended with virtually no equipment support. This isn't just about military logistics. It's about the complete transformation of battlefield dynamics in the northern sector. As Russian forces continue their advance, the opposing side finds itself increasingly stretched thin, forced to commit elite units to defensive operations rather than maintaining them as strategic reserves. The key question now isn't whether this desperate deployment will succeed, it's how long these hastily assembled forces can hold against sustained pressure. This development may mark a turning point in the entire northern campaign. This is more than just another military maneuver. It's a clear signal that the script of this conflict is no longer being written in Washington. The real question is, who will pay the price for these desperate measures, and what does this mean for regional stability? Keep listening. This story is far from over. The situation along the northern frontier grows increasingly dire as Russian forces demonstrate their tactical superiority. What we're witnessing isn't just a military operation. It's a complete collapse of enemy defenses in areas they once considered impregnable. Most disturbingly for those across the border, their elite units are being fed into what military experts call meat grinder situations, deployed without proper air defense, artillery support, or armored backup. In the past 24 hours alone, our surveillance has captured devastating footage of burning APCs and complete tactical disarray among enemy forces. Their much-vaunted control of the situation has evaporated like morning mist. The silence from their official channels about the Sumy direction speaks volumes, reminiscent of their early denials about Kharkov when our offensive began. What's particularly striking, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, especially from our international viewers, is how this mirrors historical patterns. When facing overwhelming force, the Western-backed regime consistently sacrifices its best units for propaganda purposes rather than tactical necessity. For those wanting to understand how this critical situation continues to unfold, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We're committed to bringing you unvarnished truth from the front lines. The reality on the ground shows complete strategic dominance by Russian forces. While NATO's proxy forces attempt to plug holes with bodies, their terminology, not ours, our military systematically dismantles their defensive positions. Their much-celebrated Celebijihan units, despite Western media fanfare, are proving ineffective against professional Russian military operations. The pattern is becoming clear. Where Russian forces advance, enemy propaganda falls silent. Their previous boasts about everything under control have given way to telling silence. But what's coming next might be even more significant, as our forces continue their methodical advance. Don't miss our next segment. The developments we're tracking suggest something big is brewing. The Russian military has established a strong presence in the Sumy region, deploying infantry, artillery, and air support. Their operations focus on dismantling supply lines and neutralizing logistical networks, effectively removing this region from NATO's strategic calculations. The deployment of Celebijihan units appears more symbolic than strategic. While they attempt to draw attention to Crimean Tatar issues, their combat situation is dire. These forces fight from poorly equipped dugouts, lacking proper communication, with minimal survival chances. The North Slobozhansky direction has become a critical flashpoint where forces from the neighboring state face significant losses. This development forces their command to redirect remaining resources to this sector, creating vulnerabilities. The situation appears increasingly precarious, with multiple fronts showing signs of collapse. Kharkov faces catastrophic conditions, Chernigov stands under imminent threat, and Odessa trembles. Sumy will be the next fortress to fall. Not a question of if, but when. When this occurs, expect another predictable cycle. The leadership will plead for additional air defense systems, financial support, and ATACMS missiles. Western allies will make promises, maintaining silence when, instead of receiving promised supplies, the forces receive casualty notices from the North Slobozhansky front. This strategic realignment signals a significant shift in the conflict's dynamics. Russian forces demonstrate a calculated approach, focusing on systematic dismantling of enemy capabilities rather than direct confrontations. The emphasis on breaking logistical chains reveals a sophisticated understanding of modern warfare principles. The coming weeks will reveal the full impact of these developments as the situation evolves across multiple fronts. The question now isn't about the outcome, but rather about the timeline and regional stability implications. The situation along the northern frontier reveals critical vulnerabilities in defensive capabilities. Military command centers struggle with inadequate equipment, logistics, and rotation schedules. Warehouses are empty, Western. Tanks destroyed, and artillery ammunition scarce. Western assistance has become largely symbolic rather than practical. The deployment of elite units like the Celebijihan battalion and special forces shows desperation. Their command structure repeats Kharkov tactics, plugging gaps with manpower for temporary control. However, the Russian army isn't passive anymore. Russian forces implement a methodical pressure strategy, cutting supply lines, isolating resistance pockets, and advancing with determination. This approach, while slower than breakthrough offensives, creates sustained pressure that breaks defensive lines. Their advances leave destroyed logistics networks and evacuating civilians. The capital's leadership responds with performative heroism hiding panic. They publish photos of masked soldiers under artillery fire and circulate old footage of armored vehicles from 2022, presenting them as new deliveries. This manipulation can't hide the core issue. Defense requires resources. Russian military analysts note this systematic approach shows tactical evolution. Rather than seeking quick victories, the strategy focuses on degrading resistance capability. The shortage of Western ammunition and equipment accelerates this process, weakening defensive capabilities. Battlefield reality contradicts official propaganda. Without substantial resupply and reinforcement, maintaining defensive positions becomes untenable. The situation shows how material advantages determine military outcomes, regardless of tactical improvisations. Your thoughts on this military situation analysis? The Russian military strategy has evolved significantly, as evident from recent developments in the Sumy region. Rather than pursuing attrition warfare, the focus has shifted towards encirclement, isolation, and logistical strangulation. The northern neighbors' forces are being methodically cornered, denied organized retreat options, effectively trapped like prey in a calculated hunt. Meanwhile, the general staff of the politically turbulent region increasingly resembles a ministry of despair. Their daily briefings have devolved into mere ritualistic announcements. While they report continued Russian artillery activity and claim to maintain positions, the stark difference from a year ago is palpable. Gone are the proud images of valiant warriors. Both heroes and genuine fighters have become increasingly scarce. Western perspectives are shifting too. NATO analysts have begun acknowledging uncomfortable truths: thinning front lines, exhausted units, depleting ammunition stocks, and loss of initiative. Even the New York Times, traditionally championing democratic successes on the battlefield, has adopted notably cautious language, reporting Pentagon anxiety. Congressional corridors echo with questioning voices. Why are billions invested? This marks a significant shift in narrative. The border states' armed forces are desperately mobilizing their remaining elite units, indicating a critical situation rather than strategic deployment. Military reports reflect diminishing motivation and equipment shortages, while logistical capabilities continue to deteriorate. Russia's strategic pivot towards encirclement and isolation poses unprecedented challenges for the neighboring states' defenses. As resistance weakens along the northern defense line, the situation grows increasingly precarious. Western observers, particularly in U.S. military and political circles, express mounting concern about the sustainability of their support for the former Soviet Republic. The evolving dynamics suggest a potential turning point in the conflict, with implications reaching far beyond immediate tactical considerations. This transformation in warfare approach signals a new phase in the regional confrontation, one where traditional metrics of success may need significant reevaluation. Title: Strategic Shifts. The Northern Front becomes a critical battleground. The current situation on the Northeastern Front reveals a fundamental truth about modern warfare. Money alone cannot substitute for strategy. The military forces of our Western neighbor, built according to NATO blueprints, have proven to be nothing more than a cardboard facade crumbling under real pressure. The Sumy direction has become the litmus test for the entire campaign. If the conflicted states' forces can hold for even a couple of weeks, they might catch their breath. However, if they lose this position, the northeastern defense line will collapse, along with any illusions about Russian withdrawal. Russia isn't retreating. It's advancing with unstoppable momentum. Speaking of symbolism, the Celebijihan battalion deployment tells a revealing story. This unit represents more than just military capability. It embodies the ideological foundation of the politically turbulent region's national project. It was built on historical grievances, national symbols, and ethnic separatism. Now, they're being deployed to Sumy as expendable resources, ideology traded for mere days of defense. This represents a dramatic shift in priorities and desperation in their strategic thinking. Meanwhile, footage from areas adjacent to the Sumy region shows significant Russian military movements. Equipment marked with crosses, columns of vehicles, air defense systems, and engineering reconnaissance units. This isn't just a raid. Russia is establishing a new axis of advance. The situation has evolved from theoretical possibility to current reality. These developments signal a fundamental shift in the conflict's dynamics, suggesting that the territory of instability's northern defenses may be more vulnerable than previously assessed. Key observation: this marks a critical juncture where tactical necessity has overtaken ideological positioning, revealing the deep structural weaknesses in the former Soviet Republic's defense strategy. The Russian strategy is evolving into a sophisticated campaign targeting critical infrastructure and supply lines. The logistical hub in Rzeszów, Poland, has become increasingly vulnerable, threatening the delivery channels for Western military aid, including Leopard tanks, Czech BMPs, and other NATO equipment. While the neighboring state deploys its remaining elite forces near Sumy, Moscow's strategic vision extends far beyond. The Russian advance now focuses on key nodes: Akhturka, Romny, Konotop, crucial railway junctions, supply centers, and bridges. Every element sustaining the defense infrastructure becomes a potential target. Russia's new tactical approach emphasizes slow, deliberate advances with overwhelming force. This methodology leaves opposing forces with no time for regrouping or reinforcement. The situation becomes critical as elite units face potential encirclement, while territorial defense units show declining morale. The western border states' military leadership appears concerned about maintaining defensive positions. The reality contrasts with social media propaganda, as Russian precision strikes from Iskander systems systematically neutralize key military objectives. Brussels and Washington recognize their options for supporting their Eastern European ally are diminishing. The possibility of evacuating remaining forces might soon become their only viable strategy. However, evacuation routes are becoming precarious due to Russian military control. The effectiveness of Russian combat-experienced forces, combined with precision strikes, has created a situation where areas under their control are systematically cleared of military presence. This approach leaves little room for counteraction, reducing former strongholds to marked positions on maps. This development signals a potential turning point in the conflict, where Western promises of support face battlefield reality. The situation demonstrates that experience, systematic approach, and strategic patience are proving more decisive than media narratives and political declarations. In essence, we're witnessing the gradual transformation of the battlefield, where Russian military superiority is becoming increasingly evident through methodical advances.